We're going to go ahead and get started with our meeting. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight to the March Town Board meeting. Before we get started, if you'll please join me in a moment of silence just to pray about the town. Amen. If you'll please stand with me and face the American flag and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item of business is our conflict of interest statement. I'm going to ask Al if he will read that for us.
Yes, sir. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes and Town of Mocksville Code of Ethics Policy adopted November 9th, 2010, amended as of January 6, 2019, and further endorsed on August 9, 2022, I would ask each of you before you adopt the agenda if there is any actual, potential, or perceived conflict of interest with respect to any matter on the proposed agenda which will come before the Town Board of Commissioners for consideration and/or decision at this meeting. If so, please speak up and let the board know at this time before the agenda is adopted.
Anything? Thank you, Al.
Yes, sir.
Okay, with none being brought up, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda?
Mr. Mayor, the only comment that I would make is that we have a placeholder for closed session. I do not have a need for closed session tonight. So.
Motion to adopt. Motion to adopt the agenda from Carl and a second from Jenny. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. Next, we have our citizen comment time. If anybody would like to say anything that might be on their mind about the town, you've got 3 minutes to step up to the podium and speak your mind. Okay. Then we'll close the public comment period and go right to, there's no public hearings tonight. We'll go right to communications from boards, commissions, and agencies. Our first proclamation tonight is a proclamation of the town of Mocksville declaring the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. We have Melissa here from the Dragonfly House. I think you're our new Dragonfly House person. Yeah, welcome. Yeah. And I know we've got your big event coming up before on too. So good. Well, I've got a proclamation to read. Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as our being most vulnerable assets. Whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community. Whereas communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting and child development, and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children ensure all children grow to their full potential. Whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Therefore, I do hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to wear blue on Friday, April the 3rd. Become aware of North Carolina mandated reporting laws and increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. Thank you for what you do. So moving on from that, our next proclamation is our Arbor Day celebration, which is going to be on April the 24th. If you would like to hear a proclamation read on April 24th, please come out to our Arbor Day celebration. We will plant trees. And I think you all have a bulletin in front of you regarding where that's going to be. And I look forward to that every year. We get kids coming over from the school to help us plant trees. And finally, just let it be entered into the minutes that there is a proclamation declaring March 7th, 2026 as a Day of Narcolepsy Awareness. That is something that we have on our agenda each year, and we are observing March 7th, 2026 as Narcolepsy Awareness Day. And finally, that's our last proclamation. We'll move on. Bitchmark has a presentation and update for us tonight. I'm going to ask Vaughn and Bridget if they will come up and make a presentation.
Thank you. My name is Bridget Kalea, and I'm here with Vaughn Hansen. We're from Benchmark Planning. We're the consulting firm that was hired by the town to update your comprehensive plan as well as draft your first downtown master plan. We last met with you. Jason Epley came here in December to give you a little update on that project. I'm giving you another one tonight. So I'm just going to give you a little update as well as talk through our draft growth strategy. So we have drafted a growth strategy at the first kind of beginning of what we will be recommending for the comprehensive plan. And then we've also started planning out some public workshops that we'll talk more about and then talk through the next steps with the plans. So just to give you an update on where we are in the process, we're about halfway through the development of both plans. We've just finished the background research phase, and we've also finished the public kickoff and the online community survey. And we're now moving into the drafting of vision and guiding principles. After this, we'll be holding some downtown workshops in March and April, and then we'll begin drafting both the downtown master plan and the comprehensive plan. And since our last update, we had a meeting with the Downtown Collaborative on February 9th. We had about 25 people there. And then we also met with the Planning Commission on February 12th. Some of the information we talked about with the Planning Commission is on your presentation tonight, though we did dive into a lot more detail, and there's also some more information on the Downtown Collaborative meetings. And if you're interested in kind of seeing everything we've gone through, that's all on the project website, which is planmocksville.com. We've also had about 500 visitors to the project website, and we've got a number of people who subscribe for email updates, which we've been sending out when we present to the Planning Commission and the Downtown Collaborative. And we've also continued that background research, the draft vision and guiding principles. So as I said, I'm going to talk through a little bit of the background research, but I'm not going to go through everything. So I'll try to keep it brief for you all, but to give you a little piece of what we've been looking at. So we've been looking at a range of different background data and research, and we found, of course, the town is growing at a faster rate than the county and the state. Generally, the town didn't grow for a long time, and so this growth does seem quite significant, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not super significant. But the town will continue to grow. There is some approved residential lots, approved development going on right now, and of course the town will grow as those fill up. But there is still a demand for new housing in Mocksville as well as in the entire region. Since the last comprehensive plan, the housing market has improved. It does still remain affordable to most residents, and the household sizes remain above average size, generally because there's a larger number of children in Mocksville. But there still appears to be a little bit of a difference between housing and job growth. So this little graph here just shows you commuting patterns in and out of the town. So on the left, you see over 5,500 residents or workers are commuting into Mocksville every day from other places, generally from the Winston-Salem area, and as well as a lot of the unincorporated areas of Davie County. At the same time, you have over 2,200 residents who commute out of Davie County, out of Mocksville to work, largely in Winston-Salem. And then you've got just under 500 residents who both live and work within Mocksville itself. We also, as part of this background research, met with a number of stakeholders in listening sessions. So we talked with about 30 to 40 people, just kind of had informal conversations asking them the main takeaways they had for Mocksville. We just wanted to learn through some of the big topics we discovered, and one of those was housing development. So we heard that there was a little bit of a lack of diverse inventory and affordability, but there was not any consensus on what type of housing people would like to see. Some of the people in the listening sessions wanted to have more dense development, multifamily, while others were concerned about density, wanting strictly large lot single-family homes. Though there was across the board a desire for higher quality materials and site designs, as well as identification of opportunities for infill development and housing around downtown. Of course, downtown came up as a major focus of all the listening sessions. Generally speaking, people are really excited about what's going on in downtown Mocksville. They see a lot of potential there, would like to see more momentum, more activity, more things to do, more going on, as well as additional aesthetic improvements. So there was a lot of conversation about streetscape and building aesthetics, and just kind of what types of activities and amenities they would like to see in downtown in the future. Mobility and infrastructure also came up a lot. Of course, there's a limited road connectivity across the town. So with those commuting patterns in and out, there are some concerns about traffic backups and alternative routes. There's also a really strong interest in pedestrian amenities, sidewalks and trails, as well as those alternate routes, road connections. Downtown parking came up as an issue, although the responses were kind of mixed about what the issue is with downtown parking, and that's something we'll look more into with the downtown master plan. There was also some comments about utilities in and around downtown. And then the last major topic that came up was, of course, growth and planning. So a lot of concerns about the impacts that growth has on the town services, the town infrastructure. Also some concerns about design standards and wanting to improve those. Also some recommendations to have some more gateways where you kind of know when you come into Mocksville because there's some aesthetic, big, beautiful thing. And as well as opportunities to coordinate better with our local governments that surround us. And then we've also looked at some physical data. So this map here shows land cover from 2024. And basically all of those red areas are developed areas. And so you can see a lot of the core of Mocksville is already developed today. But those green areas are forest land, pasture, and shrub land. So you can see there is still a lot of undeveloped areas either used for forest land or for agricultural purposes. And out on the town's periphery, you can see also some cropland, which is shown in yellow. What's interesting is, so this data comes from the the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they have data going back a number of years, so you can look at how it's changed over time, and this is based on satellite imagery data. So on this graph, on this map, you see in gray areas that were developed in 2014, and those areas in red are things that have been developed between 2014 and 2024. So you can see some large areas that have been developed up by I-40 for industrial and warehousing uses. You can see a large solar farm that was developed in town, as well as some residential development in town. But there hasn't been any large subdivision type development until recently, of course. Again, this is from 2024, so the Nelson's Creek is not showing up on this map. And then you can see outside of Mocksville, there's also been a lot of residential subdivision along roads in unincorporated Davie County. We've also looked at recent development activity, and so here just shows a range of development that's either been proposed or approved or developed within the town in recent years. And you can see there has been some interest in doing things in Mocksville. And then lastly, we looked at a range of existing plans, and so this was actually presented to you all by DFI a few months back. And this just shows recently developed or proposed projects within the Mocksville region. And you can see, of course, Nelson's Creek, as well as a subdivision that was proposed on the southern edge of town, and a subdivision proposed in Bermuda Run. And so we've looked at essentially a number of other plans. In addition to existing development, we've looked at, of course, your current comprehensive plan, a number of recreation plans from Davie County, your water system asset management plan, the DFI assessment of the Energy United property, the Davie County Schools demography report, as well as your strategic plan, your capital improvement plan. And we walked through some summaries of these with the planning board. Not going to do it tonight, but just to let you know that we have incorporated a lot of things into our draft direction for the plan. Including utilities. So generally speaking, you have utilities across the town and into parts of the ETJ, though there is some capacity limitations in parts of the areas where there is service. So we've looked at a lot of background data. We have talked to people. We did an online community survey. And this was, in the survey, we asked people, what is your vision for the future of Mocksville? And the number one thing was downtown. And that was followed closely by protecting the small town feel of Mocksville. There was also a lot of emphasis on housing, community, traffic, businesses, restaurants. Some of this is things that people are concerned about. Of course, traffic is something they're concerned about, and as well as roads, water, protecting the charm, and having more events and activities. So we know that the town of Mocksville and its periphery has experienced significant growth. We know that residents are concerned about traffic amongst other negative impacts from development, that there have been no significant road improvements planned within town in the coming years, and that downtown has momentum and there's a real interest in seeing downtown thrive. We also know that industry accounts for 40% of the town's tax base, and multiple plans are in place to expand industry within Mocksville in the next few years. We know that the current water and sewer services have some constraints in certain areas, and that significant commuting occurs into and out of Mocksville each day. And maybe most importantly, we know that residents value Mocksville's small town charm and character. We also looked at what's changed since the 2019 comprehensive plan. Since the current plan was adopted, the population of the town has grown. You've seen an increase in development interest, and some of that has not been well received by residents. You've also seen a little bit more affordable housing development. You've seen some investments in infrastructure. There has been a continued focus on improving downtown, maybe most notably by the town developing a downtown master plan. And also you've seen some significant improvements to recreational resources between the county rec center, the park on Main Street, and some new pickleball courts. It's been some really great improvements there. And there's also additional plans to expand parks, recreation, and trails. There's also been industrial interest in some of the areas that are designated for industrial growth in Mocksville. So we looked at all this, we looked at the current vision for the town, and we felt like it's mostly the same as it was in the previous plan with maybe some modifications. And so we took a first swing at drafting a vision for the future of Mocksville, and that's shown here. So the vision we drafted is that the town of Mocksville will strive to preserve and enhance our small town character and charm, sense of community, and high quality of life. We presented this to the planning board a couple weeks ago, and they mostly liked it. We're still working on some revisions based on their feedback, which was just to capture that we still want to accommodate some growth. Where they felt this maybe doesn't capture that there will still be some infill development and more moderate growth. So we're looking at how we might tweak it to meet that request from them. We also presented them our draft goals. So again, we went through the previous comprehensive plan's draft goals and felt like they were mostly there with some changes. And so we ended up kind of restructuring them, framing them in a different way. And our draft goals are shown here. So those are to support sustained business and industry growth, to develop a strong and authentic tourism economy, to make strategic investments in public infrastructure and services, to strengthen and revitalize our historic downtown, to promote compatible infill development, and to enhance walkability and connectivity. When we presented these to the planning board, we just wanted to make sure they were okay with this direction before we go on and write all of the recommendations. But we did also present some statements that accompany the paragraphs, or paragraphs that accompany the statements. So in terms of business and industry growth, we're really talking about supporting existing businesses, encouraging entrepreneurship, attracting compatible new industry that provides quality jobs and expands the tax base. In terms of strengthening and revitalizing our historic downtown, we talk about it becoming the vibrant economic and social center of the town, allowing some reinvestment, adaptive reuse, mixed-use development, and business activity that still respects its historic character. And of course, that will be fleshed out a lot more in the downtown master plan, but in the comprehensive plan, it will still be a focus area as it was previously. We also looked at developing a strong and authentic tourism economy, which we talked through with planning board. This really talks about kind of keying in on what is Mocksville's identity and how do we bring that to light through tourism. Promoting compatible infill development. So this, Vaughn will talk a little bit more about our future land use map. But really making sure that the development that does occur can be supported by the town's infrastructure and it's compatible with what's going on around it. Making strategic investments in public infrastructure and services, of course, something that every government would love to do, and we want to make that a core focus of Mocksville's comprehensive plan and tie it directly into your capital improvement plan. And then enhance walkability and connectivity, so really figuring out how we can add those sidewalks, those trails, ways to connect people between different places and create more attractive gateways. So that is our draft vision and goals. Before I turn it over to Vaughn to talk about the future land use map, I don't know if you all want to take a moment to provide any feedback on the direction we're heading.
When you say residential development should be denser, proximate to downtown, and large subdivisions should not occur, how large is a large subdivision? Is Nelson Creek's large?
Yeah. I don't know. We'll probably need to define that when we talk about it in the comprehensive plan. I would say.
I'll talk about it.
Okay, he'll talk about it when we talk about the future land.
Thank you. Any other questions for Bridget? Good.
All right, I'll turn it over to
Thank you.
Vaughn to talk about future land use.
Okay, just to reorient everyone, so this is the future land use map, essentially a growth strategy from the 2019 comprehensive plan. It did a lot of things. It called for a lot of industrial growth, accommodation of existing industries that are already in town, allowed for some growth of the downtown area, expanding that maybe beyond its natural current borders, encouraged a lot of commercial development, particularly going back up towards 40 from downtown. And then it had some differentiation between particularly in-town and rural residential uses. And we've taken things a little bit of a different direction from that. I think the thrust of the overall strategy in terms of geography remains fairly similar. Some of it just comes down to distinction between how we connotate and characterize the rural areas and how we characterize and differentiate residential development, existing land uses in town as it is now. Of course, as Bridget mentioned previously, one of the goals of this plan is to promote compatible infill development that really takes advantage of your previous investments in infrastructure and your water and sewer, the roads that already exist, so we're not just sprawling endlessly out into the countryside, which has a lot of great benefits and addresses a lot of community concerns, we think. And so having that compatible infill development closer in, taking advantage again of some of the vacant properties that are in town and some sites that might need some redevelopment. Directing the industry where the roads and the infrastructure can handle it. There's a lot of opportunity we saw kind of on the west side of the community going out 64 towards I-40. One of the benefits out there, of course, is it doesn't have that same kind of burden of traffic as you have in some of the existing areas. We're not having as many people passing through town, especially truck traffic and things of that nature, being able to ensure that additional industrial growth has better access. You're not putting it on the south side of town, you're not putting it on the east side of town, you're putting it in locations encouraging that development where it can more easily access the interstate highway network. And then, again, expanding the downtown boundary. I'll talk a little bit more about, so you can see it a little bit better on this one, it's a little bit blown up on here. What we've done is we've provided some more differentiation between what we call town residential and suburban residential areas. The town residential areas are essentially the older core legacy, whatever you might want to call it, residential areas of the community. There might be some small inclusions of commercial uses, neighborhood type commercial office, churches, schools, things of that nature in those areas, but they're primarily residential areas on the periphery of downtown. Those would be the areas where we would anticipate seeing smaller scale infill development, some redevelopment activity and things of that nature. Utilizing the existing infrastructure and street networks, you might have a little small scale cul-de-sac development off of one of your main roads, but really taking advantage of that existing infrastructure and filling in from there. The suburban residential areas, these go out into the more what we might term today a conventional residential subdivision with your cul-de-sac streets and maybe one or two entrances off of a main road. These are the areas where you tend to have, would have grown in the 60s, 70s, 80s primarily, and we'll continue to see some growth going out into the future. But what we're trying to do with this is then not connotate the rural areas or characterize the rural areas as being residential areas. They're not intended in the way that this growth framework is put forth now as being areas where you should be going out and doing major subdivisions, installing new streets and things like that. People want to divide up land out there in the ETJ areas, of course, where you do have zoning regulation, subdivision regulation, they can do that, but really not encouraging even acre lot kind of development out there in major subdivisions. But really focusing that back more and towards where you see the greenfield development type sites in those suburban residential areas. Of course, you have zoning in place right now that allows typically some degree of residential development in those areas, particularly inside of the town limits. And due to various things about state law, you really can't change that very much unless the law changes. And so there will be some residential development that takes place, major subdivisions primarily in the town limits, according to this growth framework. But it's not advocating an expansion of the town to go out and grab isolated, satellite annexation areas or annex every piece of property that's immediately adjacent to the town limits. It's really trying to target it back into those areas that are more compact and accessible, and take advantage again of the infrastructure investments that the town has already made. The other thing that's a little bit different from this map is we have fewer areas of kind of isolated commercial, individual, one-off kind of commercial or industrial inclusions in the future land use framework. Those are things primarily on your current future land use map, the 2019 map, or things, it was basically just recognizing things that existed already. Those can stay as long as they comply and stay in business essentially. And so they're not really going anywhere, but we're not really wanting to necessarily add on to a kind of isolated one-off kind of commercial or industrial development surrounded by residential uses. We've kind of seen a little bit of that happening over the years and want to kind of the higher impact commercial and industrial development have some separation between that and some of the residential neighborhoods, especially the new stuff that's coming in. So we're not burdening an existing job creator by putting homes next door that are complaining about their trucks coming in and out in the middle of the night, if that makes sense. So this is the draft future land use framework that we're working on now. We've gotten a little bit of feedback from Lee and from the planning board as we've been discussing it over the last month or so, and be happy to take any questions about it or answer maybe in more definitive terms what your question about a large subdivision. I think it goes back to, you have to recognize that the zoning that's in place now, especially in town, typically allows the subdivision of land at a suburban residential neighborhood scale, maybe 4 dwelling units per acre gross or something like that. And so it's really going to have to do with how big the vacant properties are, the forested land, the agricultural lands, the otherwise vacant properties. But what we're trying to say with our growth framework is to not reach out and just because there's a 300-acre piece of land that exists and your petition to annex and rezone it to a higher density residential zoning category, don't just haphazardly take those opportunities. It is an opportunity, but it might not be, it doesn't really fit with the type of growth framework that we've been hearing the community desires. And so that's what we're trying to differentiate there. Taking advantage of the strategic incremental growth that's available within the current town limits. Once that's kind of occurred, maybe then looking to whether it's appropriate to keep on going outside into the ETJ or beyond.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments? All right. And so I will go on to the next couple of slides. Bridget mentioned that we had scheduled some workshops. Those will be a series of 3 workshops focused on the downtown. This is part of the process of developing the downtown master plan. The first one will be Monday, March 16th, followed by March 30th, and the last one will be April 20th. That gives us a little bit of time in between those workshops because we're going to be getting input from the community, we'll be presenting, getting input from the folks that showed up to those meetings, developing concepts, developing ideas, developing strategies, coming back to represent those at the second workshop, and then having some more prepared, finalized type of graphics and renderings and other maps to present at the end of April, kind of culminating the workshop process that has a good both visual and strategic written direction for the downtown area. We've prepared a flyer for those. There's actually some up here if you want to grab one or if anybody wants to take one to their shop or their office to have up on the window. We also, I think Lee has been, you've received that, Lee, probably, maybe, not yet. The flyer.
Send it to me again.
We'll send it to you again. So the town will be getting that out in its usual manner, and we were going to be sending that to our email list as well. We've had, how many people are on our email list now?
About 300.
300. So what's that? So I have to have a great turnout for that. The first one again will be Monday, March 16th. And they'll be over at the Education Building. And the workshops are going to have a lot of different topics discussed. We're going to basically divide the downtown and peripheral areas up into 4 different areas: a western, a central, an eastern, and a northern area, just because they have a little bit different character within the overall downtown. And we're going to talk about everything from streets and public spaces, placemaking. How do we make Mocksville have a unique or reinforce its unique identity through the urban form and through development? Looking at a future vision for the downtown, how does it grow? Where are we going with our goals and strategies, as well as addressing some of the the opportunity sites, either vacant or underutilized parcels of land that present an opportunity to have a higher and better use than their current use, to bring about some, economic development, some housing, some other things that will help downtown thrive in the future. So we'll be covering all that and doing an iterative process over those 3 workshops to, solidify the vision for the master plan and have something that the town can follow and business owners and residents can rely on as they're making investments in their properties and businesses. So again, those workshops coming up, and then we'll be starting today, working on the draft plans. Of course, the workshops will need to be done for downtown before we get that completed, but we'll be diving right into the comprehensive plan, more detailed recommendations, refining the land use strategy, refining the vision and goals over the next couple months. And I think that is it from us, but still happy to take any questions that you might have.
Al?
I just wanted to give a comment, Mr. Mayor. In my practice, I see a lot of the reference to comprehensive plans for growing communities. And this is fairly important now. North Carolina is a property rights state, is represented by the legislature's actions. I'll mention one aspect that you may be familiar with, restrictions on or what's called downzoning. If you don't know what that is, please see me later. But when developers, the presentation has rightly focused you on your visions for growth, but growth is sometimes driven by developers who know where all the vacant, I won't say it's not vacant land, it's undeveloped land. And they're making deals, or already have before you're sitting here, to purchase that land. And they're going to present to you proposals to higher density develop that land. And where you might want to say yes or no, but particularly no, you need to reference your comprehensive plan, because if not, your decision will be overcome by the judiciary. If I need to explain that in more detail, I'm glad to. So you are kind of the deciders, but you may not be the ultimate decider. To ensure that you render a decision that's in keeping with your plan and is proper for the applicant or petitioner, so that he or she will know when they come what they should bring, and that they will answer the questions you have, because an approval can be given at the planning board and still be overturned here. Your reference to your comprehensive plan is important. I just saw something about this, something like this 2 weeks ago, where a decision was no. And the developers, the ball's in their court. You hope they come back with a better plan, but there's another option that they have, and it involves the judiciary, and it involves the legislature. So I just want to say this is very important what you're doing. It's important to understand it. If you're going to make a decision, particularly a no decision, you have to tie it to this plan for that decision to be defensible.
Okay. So we're moving in a good direction. Okay. Thank you, Vaughn.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so I think Al gave us some encouragement that we're doing the right thing here. So moving on with our agenda, we do have our consent agenda to approve. That's our minutes and our monthly financials. We have a motion from Jenny to approve, a second from Justin. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes. There's no old business. Moving on to new business. Item number A, consider annexation petition request, and we'll turn it over to Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. In your agenda packet, you have a petition to request voluntary annexation from the Guglielmi Family Limited Partnership. I would like to go ahead and ask you, if you would, just to take a look at page 49 of the agenda packet. Page 49 and 50 will give you a visual. The property in which Mr. Guglielmi has requested voluntary annexation is outlined in the blue. And you see just to the north of it and just to the west of it, area that's already within the town limits. So that area in the purple just north of the blue lined property presented tonight was what the town annexed into the town, I think, back in 2023 or 2024. That property has not yet been developed. and it's my understanding that the developer has not reached agreement to be able to access sewer for that. You do have the potential for a contiguous annexation. This is a little bit of a parallel track. So what you have before you tonight is a petition for voluntary annexation. You may move forward with this process by adopting a resolution that you have on page 52. The parallel track is that as the town considers the potential for annexation, it also has to consider the potential for what the zoning designation would be. So this current track is under county zoning. You don't automatically take county zoning. If you bring it into the town, you have to look at what the zoning should be for that property if you decide to annex it. The planning board will be taking that into consideration at their meeting next week. So if there's consideration here, that would be a parallel track. And then finally, on page 51, you have a property information form. Richard Densler is looking at developing this. He is proposing that it be zoned within the town's zoning ordinance, open space residential conditional. That would be 113 dwelling units. So that would be 1.55 units per acre on a conditional rezoning if you decide to annex it. I did also talk to the developer regarding what Vaughn had said. I think we have to be thoughtful about that periphery development and what it costs the town. So I have had preliminary discussions with the developer that talks about the fact that they would probably behoove themselves to look at their streets being DOT maintained and not town maintained. They can get water from Davie County. We can't provide them water from that location. We can provide them sewer because that goes to the Dutchman Creek wastewater treatment plant. So before you tonight, you have the opportunity to take action to adopt a resolution directing the town clerk to investigate this petition received under General Statute 168-31. That resolution forwards a process for consideration, but it does not tie you to having to make a decision tonight on whether you annex or whether you don't annex. Any questions, Mayor or Commissioners, on this action?
Did the developer say whether he was planning on purchasing the other piece of property?
There was conversation that he would consider that.
The other piece is the piece that
The
does.
one just north, yeah. Again, this other developer is a little bit dead in the water because there's no sewer access.
They don't have sewer.
So if he were to purchase both parcels, then he could connect on the sewer through.
Yes.
So he can connect onto sewer now off the Guglielmi property. If this works and goes through, then he could then negotiate with the developer on the property just north, because he would have access to extend that sewer to the north, just there, to the adjacent to the other development that's in the county.
How far by road is this outside the city limits?
Elisha
Actually,
Creek.
the ETJ's at the city at the line.
Yeah, I mean,
Elisha Creek's in the city
Yeah,
limits.
so you've got parcels all around it that are technically within the city limits now. All of the purple/pink area that you see is within the town limits. So you got, to the left, you've got Elisha Creek, and then just north of that, you've got that undeveloped that was annexed in 2024.
Probably a quarter mile or so outside the city limits by road.
By road, yes. And that would be by Milling Road. Yep, not by Sane Road.
So if he doesn't, if the town doesn't annex this in, he can still develop that property. With county water, he would just have to do septic if he didn't catch on to our sewer, unless he just applied for sewer and developed it. I mean, is that still a possibility?
Well, I mean, the town could provide him sewer. It'd be twice the, inside rate.
Same thing, like on Sain Road at Forest Glen and those developments, it would be at the same, but I'm not sure what the houses per acre are in those developments.
I think from a zoning standpoint, he's looking at annexation for a more holistic approach with that other parcel
Okay.
and to marry up the zoning. So it's not county zoning versus
So
town zoning.
this is 113 units, and that's just for the 73 acres.
That is
not-
just for the 73 acres. That's correct.
And the original plan for the other was,
70-some units, I think.
yeah, I thought it was about 80.
200 units roughly.
Yeah, it's 200 units.
So now that being said, if what was approved prior was conditional rezoning, that would have to come back again before the commissioners because it's a new property owner and a new negotiation.
Yeah.
So this property, like the other property, if the town annexed it and then he didn't develop it, it would still be in the city limits. But
It would still be in the city limits. And in a conditional rezoning, if there was some change to that development, it would have to come back before the planning board and the board of
We also
commissioners.
have to provide services to that,
that's right.
which is, a good little ways outside the city limits, really.
And I think Lee recommended to do the DOT maintained streets where we wouldn't have to do street upkeep. I mean, I guess we wouldn't have to provide them streetlights either.
You would not.
If this was not approved tonight, that would just take it off the table.
Well, the planning board will still, I mean, it's on the planning board agenda, but if you don't move forward, then it doesn't move forward. A resolution to direct the clerk to certify would have to be made. Otherwise, there's no action. There's no further action. Unless there's other questions, Mr. Mayor, I think you can just entertain a motion and.
Is
see
there
what
a
the board's
motion to
pleasure.
approve the annexation or table it or move on to item number B? But if we don't do item number A, I bet item number B is not gonna happen.
I say be not to happen.
Okay, so
We got
That's
a
it.
motion to deny?
Second.
we got a motion to deny from Justin, a second from Johnny. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay,
So
I just want to make sure for the record that was 4-0, right?
4-0. So there's no item number B on the agenda. Item number 10, communications from staff. Al, do you have anything to communicate?
No, not this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Lee?
Couple of things, quickly. One, I want to thank publicly Chris Vaughn and his team for the great work they did to prepare the pickleball courts for the SBA opening. There were a lot of moving parts. Chris was very, very helpful in doing that for our ribbon cutting. So Chris, thank you to you and your team for that. I want to thank Brian and his group for their ongoing work as we integrate our new water meter installations in play with Fort Line. That's going well, and Brian's team's having to do double work because now that we're going to be purchasing water from Davie County, we're needing to meter some town facilities that we've never metered before. Yeah, so there you go. So Brian, thank you for multitasking. I appreciate that. And then I just want to recognize Jeanette will be attending the North Carolina Main Street Conference next week. I want to thank her for all her hard work. As we have said last year, we're making incremental improvements be an official North Carolina Main Street community, and I think this all really ties into what we've heard. And I will say this, our feedback not only has been from town residents, but we've also had a strong amount of feedback from county residents. So even though they don't live in Mocksville, they consider Mocksville their hometown, and we're sensitive to that. And most of the comments are sort of congruous in what they want. Small town, downtown character. And I will say that I've had offline conversations with Benchmark. We will begin the process of updating our zoning ordinance. We're going to call it a Unified Development Ordinance. And I'm encouraging our group through our comprehensive plan to think more in line of a form-based code. We know what good looks like, and we need to begin incorporating that process into our zoning ordinance and not just relying on a map that says you can get so many units per acre. So our town attorney is spot on. The General Assembly, for better for worse, have made changes where you can't reduce, if you've already got X units per acre, you can't reduce that. But we certainly have within our wherewithal legally to work with a developer to dictate what good looks like and what we want it to look like. And we don't need to be ambiguous about it. We need to put it on paper and say, this is what it is. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Jenny, anything?
And just thank you, everybody, for their hard work.
Nothing tonight, thanks to the team.
I'm good.
Okay, good deal. I would just like to mention, we had the hoedown for Smart Start. It went really well. Lots of folks attended it. I don't know the final numbers, but that went down. Dragonfly's getting ready to go down. Make sure you guys are aware of that. I think it's going to be at the Millennial Center again. So let's support Dragonfly in that and our child abuse prevention. Shamrock Run is coming up in downtown on the 14th. So let's support O'Callahan's and Rotary with Shamrock Run. The SBA, the whole SBA week that we had with the pickleball courts and the dedication out there, I think we impressed the Lithuanian folks, and it was a great time for Mocksville to really shine internationally. So I had lots of good feedback on that. And I would like to mention, we lost one of our citizens, Bill Junker, had passed away. His funeral was very well attended, and he was a great citizen of the town of Mocksville. Just recognize him. So other than that, that's all I have. I just need a motion to adjourn. Motion from Carl, second from Justin. All those in favor say aye. Aye. It all passes. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.